Hello everyone and welcome to the Mancini the Amazing channel. So for the past this generation, Generation 8, this has mostly been a singles, a VGC focused channel with relatively little in terms of singles content, despite the fact that before that I was very much all in singles. Draft in general was mostly focused around singles, where I'm not aware of there having been very consistent VGC leagues and there were some doubles leagues which I didn't get as involved in, though I did play in a couple, as well as the occasional multi-battle league, of which I didn't play in one until it was already Generation 8 and VGC leagues had really started taking off. However, I was also at that time pretty big into playing singles in the ladder and seeing what I could do and go through there. I actually built a team, which I mention every now and then, around Mimikyu for the BL Knight series by PokeaimMD and Thundurus 777, which they used in the video, even if they made some changes that didn't wind up working out. So I was a decent singles builder, but I have not played a singles, non-random battles singles game of Generation 9, period. I have not followed any of the format since the start of the Pokemon Home release, which obviously shook up the format a lot, and certainly nothing in Regulation E. However, I was running out of interesting I was running out of ideas that I would thought of the, and you know what, I think I would try and refresh and see how my VGC draft can do in singles. So I'm just going to build a team for you with it. And then see how we go there. So I'm having relatively little understanding of the format outside of making sure that yes, every single Pokemon of my 11-mon team, I haven't actually built for this game yet, I need to do that at some point, is legal. Most of these Pokemon on my opponent's team are not legal for UU, it turns out, or most is probably an exaggeration. Palafin is in Ubers. I think Urshifu is also in Ubers. Landorus Therian is in OU. Amoonguss, I have no idea what tier Amoonguss is in. It might be UU. No, it's in OU. Okay, so I'm playing against, someone, he just was like, okay, you know what's really good in singles? I'm just going to draft all those Pokemon. Rotom Heat is a Pokemon that winds up in random tiers. It's an RU right now, so it would be legal in UU as well. But, so I'm playing, the bullshit opponent with the bullshit Pokemon, and, everyone should feel bad for me. My team definitely isn't a lot worse, but, you know what, how about we take it to a lower power level to see where my team can. And I do actually have several Pokemon that are actual UU Pokemon, though I don't know if they are necessarily going to stay there, because I believe Iron Treads is only in there temporarily, but we'll see. So I figured, I would build the team around, especially because we're about to see rotation, I think, in the next day or two. Because for those of you who don't know, singles ladder is a usage-based format, so I think it's Pokemon with below 3.43 usage. No, I can't remember what the number is. But there's a number, and it's Pokemon below that usage amount drop to the lower tier unless they have been banned. So if we look here, we see that there are a number of Pokemon which have been banned from the tier RU, and thus, while not technically UU Pokemon by usage, are not allowed to be used and rarely used. And we do actually see one of my Pokemon, Iron Jugulus, there. This format also has, theoretically, all of a number of other Pokemon that are not legal in our current format legal, as we saw Mew there. And Hooper Unbound is apparently here, because that makes sense. So a lot of the weirder sort of options. But yes, we're basically going to see how I can do using my 11 Pokemon team here, 3 of which are UU Pokemon in performing in UU. I did actually see that I had a number of Pokemon in RU and a number of Pokemon in NU as well. So I think probably the first thing on the team in singles, hazards are even more important than they were for my this season in VBL. So Stone Axe is going to be a real key part of the format. Now, what are sort of looking like the rock resists in UU at this point. And here's where I used to use this tool on occasion when trying to get into new formats that I had, like lower tiers that I was familiar with. You can do /deck search UU, resist rock, and all. So these are the main rock resists in UU. And what we do see here, so we have Gudra, Iron Treads, and Magnezone, and Tinkaton, all of which are both bug and rock resists. And then we have a number of neutralities to bug, so Quagsire, Breloom, Chesnaught, Donphan, and Gastrodon, and Ursaluna. So I think that means that I will probably be putting X-Scissor Close Combat, because we see it covers super effectively all of the rock resists with the exception of Tinkaton. So it hits the Gudra, the Iron Treads, and the Magnezone, all for super effective damage. And then probably U-Turn on this. So Protect is a much more rarely used move in the format. I'm using the item Heavy Duty Boots, which, if I'm switching, which I do want to be doing a good bit with U-Turn and with its generally okay defensive type of Bug Rock, I want to be getting in and not taking hazard damage. So, this is my general sort of thought process. I do want to see what the speed tiers look like in the format. So I'm going to look here for speed. I'm going to say speeds over 70. And then speeds under 90, and just try and get an idea of what is in that general speed tier Cleave was hitting for. Okay, very, very important that I make it faster than Hooper Unbound and Regidrago, and then probably I may as well cover Gyarados at that point. I imagine Rillaboom will probably be faster, and may also move to OU with its Grassy Glide buff. Basculegion is 78, right? So yeah, covering Gyarados is at 81 should let me get faster than all of it. Now, the singles ladder is played, so not Battle Sport singles, but the Smogon ones are played at level 100. So I thought there was a point where I was a lot better at remembering what those speed tiers are. But yeah, so I'm probably going to want to hit that 288 mark. And I don't need to do 4 in every defense stat because this is level 100. And each EV set of 4 EVs equals an entire stat rather than equaling 4 for the first stat and then 8 for subsequent stat jumps. And I'm just having to remind myself of this as much as I'm reminding those of you who have more of a VGC background watching. Now, hazard control can be pretty important, and one of the nice things that I do have is a Pokemon that I imagine is probably fairly decent in Iron Treads right now. So it does have access to Rapid Spin, which is pretty nice, and that allows it to remove hazards from my side of the field while maintaining it on the opponent's side of the field, as well as giving my Iron Treads a +1 speed boost. So I'm probably going to put leftovers on this because I would like it to be able to remove hazards on more than one occasion throughout a game. And I'm going to have a high horsepower because I do see that Rillaboom is in the format and he would weaken the power of Earthquake. Earthquake in singles is normally much better because it has 100% accuracy and 5 more base power. But it is still weakened by Grassy Terrain. It also doesn't have like the effective damage reduction from spread moves, though it is still blocked by Wide Guard. And then I'm probably just going to want to run Iron Head and Knockoff. The other moves that I would consider, if I was a bit more experienced in the format, Volt Switch comes very firmly to mind, but Knockoff is often really convenient for removing opposing Pokemon's Heavy Duty Boots. I'm not as worried about Heavy Duty Boots myself because I believe I should be able to Rapid Spin away any spikes. As a Steel type, this Pokemon is not affected by Toxic Spikes, and as a Ground Steel type, it only takes 3% damage from Stealth Rock, which means that Leftovers recovers them with just 1 turn. Whereas a lot of other Pokemon, so this one would take 25%, and Leftovers would take 5 turns to recover that, and then other neutral Pokemon, Leftovers takes 2 turns to recover it in. So I'm probably going to put Iron Jugulis and Gastrodon also on this team, and just pretend like Iron Jugulis is a good switch into Rillaboom. I think that's kind of where we're at this point. It's interesting because Gastrodon traditionally I think plays more like I am used to Gastrodon before like I said, at Generation 8 I mostly was stuck to VGC, so I'm not as used to it in formats where it has access to hazards, but having access to spikes is definitely very solid for my game plan. I might actually go Mono Surf, because Surf also doesn't hit my partner Pokemon in this format because there isn't a partner Pokemon, and it does not have access to Toxic. I thought it did. So I guess I'm going for Earth Power and Surf. And Iron Treads, I'm thinking on it, I might make the Iron Treads more physically defensive, and I'll probably just put HP in, and then make the Gastrodon a more specially defensive option, which was the suggestion here as well, because I would like my Gastrodon to, I would like to have like a reliable sort of general special move sponge, and Gastrodon fits that sort of build pretty well. But yeah, I don't have to commit like 4 EVs, because every single one of these 4s is impactful, and I don't know if there is a speed tier that makes sense for Gastrodon. Now, Iron Jugulus is a bit annoying. If I had like a Hydreigon, which I don't think is legal in this form. Oh, it is legal in this format. Okay, great. That's probably why this Pokemon is not used as much. Hydreigon has access to Nasty Plot, which allows it to scale up the damage that it's doing throughout the game, whereas Iron Jugulus does not. So it is just doing the same damage throughout the game, and it doesn't have the ability to become a sort of a consistent win condition like you might hope. Actually, my other Pokemon here, am I likely to get a Scarfer? I do have the option of Mimikyu as a revenge killer. Because you only have one Pokemon at a time, you do need something to try and clear out reasonable opposing Pokemon from trying to win games. I don't think I can use Mimikyu as a sweeper on this team, but I'll probably use it as a revenge killer. Other Pokemon in singles that are often used as revenge killers are Pokemon with the item Choice Scarf with a +1 speed, because that will enable them to like cover ones who have not increased their own speed. But Mimikyu can cover even more Pokemon because its disguise is good into Pokemon that aren't using loaded dice, or just multi-hit moves in general. And I was doing that because I was wondering whether I should be running a Choice Scarf on Iron Jugulus, because it is my fastest Pokemon that I'm currently planning on bringing. Now I'm going to go back up here and look for what the flying resists are in the format. Oh no. Wait, these are real Pokemon. Okay. I think my move pool is going to be Dark Pulse and Earth Power, because that allows it to hit everything except for Thundurus, alongside that Hurricane that I was initially contemplating. Now, I do have to U-turn out of Tyranitar, but luckily I do have access to that U-turn, and if I can knock off Tyranitar's leftovers somehow, I mean, Tyranitar is certainly very vulnerable to Cleavor, and yeah, then I can, sorry, I didn't mean leftovers, I meant Heavy Duty Boots, though I don't know if Tyranitar runs that in this format. It was certainly not uncommon in Generation 8. Then the Spikes and the Stealth Rock from Stone Axe can really start stacking up on my opponent. I'm just going to run max speed because I have no idea what this format is, and I would like this to be dealing damage, and probably still trying to clean up in the late game rather than sweeping. So, Mimikyu, we were looking at that just earlier. It generally is really reliant on a Life Orb in this format, or a Choice Band, to be able to actually make damage stick on opponents, because of the low base power of its moves, and its relative low attack stat at 90. Though, looking here, seeing these numbers at like the level 100 stats still feels really odd. I do want to look at the fairy resists in this format and see if there are any of them that resist Ghost as well. It seems like there aren't any fairy resists which also resist Ghost, but I may consider running a Terra Blast with maybe the Terra type Water and then Sword Stance, and maybe see if sometimes I'm able to pivot this into a potential win condition with Spikes up. Terra Blast Water allowing me to hit Arcanine, as well as being able to take resisted attacks from a number of these. Now, Volcanion is definitely still an issue, but I do have Gastrodon, who hopefully is okay into it. And I will need to start figuring out what my defensive, what my Terra types are on my Pokemon. I do not want to be minus defense. I'm not super familiar with this format, so often it's just going to be what is something that provides some defensive utility and then also provides me some offensive utility. So Terra Ground here allows me to get stat on Earth Power. I'm thinking I may go Terra Dragon because I'm not very familiar with this format, and I just want something that will maintain my fire resist while also making me resist grass. Because I'm scared of Volcanion. Like, Dragon resists all of the Volcanion moves that I would be generally apprehensive of. Terra Ground, I guess I do Terra Dark under that similar sort of thing. Though I may be a bit scared of fighting types, so I could do Terra Ground for the extra damage on high horsepower, but it mostly is there to remove the ground, fire, and fighting weaknesses from steel. Cleavor, I'm just going to Terra Fighting. I don't know what Terra would make sense on Cleavor. This doesn't share any of the weaknesses of its previous typing, and it does give it that rock resist, which is nice. And then my last Pokemon, there's the option for Toxic Spikes on Salazzle. I could do like an offensive Tauros set or like a Decidueye, but I feel like Decidueye is probably mostly in formats for Defog. And the fact that Gengar is the only ghost type I've seen come up, and it is Root resists triple arrows, means that I don't, you know. Then again, we do see Breloom and Chestnut in the format. Maybe I can run a Choice Scarf Decidueye. So there are some slower Pokemon which it can be really fun to run Choice Scarves on, not as much for the purpose of for the purposes of, oh, this is the best possible thing to run, but mostly because I just enjoy being able to get advantages over some opponents that I would not otherwise be able to, and that they can take them, catch them unawares, as it were. I could also drop Leaf Blade. I don't know how relevant Leaf Blade looks in this format, so... is it weak? I forget if it's... Yeah, Wheatgrass. Okay. Opposing Gastronauts... Really, Triple Arrow seems pretty good into most, if not all, of these Pokemon. Not amazing into Hippo, but Leaf Blade isn't going to be that much better. I think it will go for Knockoff in this slot. I feel like the utility of Knockoff would be pretty impactful. It's probably similarly good into Slowking as U-Turn. So, let's do a couple games on the UU ladder, and I don't know on average how long these games will go to know how long it should be taking, but let's see if I, using my draft team and several years old memory of singles, can pull stuff off. Skeledirge, okay. So this is a matchup where they also have Cleavor, which is definitely of some concern. Zapdos Galar was not a Pokemon that I noticed there, but is something I'm very glad to have Mimikyu for, as it was on season. I kind of want to just lead Iron Shreds. I feel like it only has the one particularly scary matchup into Basculegion. I am wrong. I think I'm going to go for Ironhead here and expect them to play around to some Terra type I don't know about. It is not even to a KO. What? I guess I did take some stuff out of my attack stat. It says that on average it should be a to a KO, and that I got a lower roll. So let's see if that's true. And it's true. Simply, the skillful plays in singles mostly just involve getting flinches. Because they are so much more suffocating than in VGC, because that's their entire Pokemon. Okay, apparently this Pokemon normally runs Scarf. So I want to Terra Ground here and go for Knockoff to remove their Scarf. So Terra Ground will allow me to... They are not Scarf. Are they banded? Okay, they're banded. They went for U-Turn. Okay. Well, I wound up losing out in using my Terra there, but I think playing around the Scarf Close Combat was reasonable, based on the fact that I literally have one set, for example, here. The other sets are also, you know, like banded and whatever. I wonder what they were expecting me to U-Turn into. Surely not Mimikyu. I'm going to knock this off as well. This is probably Scarf, because the other one wasn't, but I don't know what they're going to go for. Probably something predicting Gastrodon. That did a lot. Would you look at that? Something predicting Gastrodon. Yeah, sometimes in singles, opponents will play really hard around you, and you can just punish them, especially when it's in this sort of low ladder situation. So at least that hasn't changed. Iron Treads is finally good, guys. I swear, he's a usable Pokemon. It's funny how they just kind of like banned all the things that Iron Tread checks in OU, and then it stopped being an OU because it was really only there for that like sort of ground steel typing. I'm not getting a game. How many games are there right now? You can check the active battles and then select the format you're playing to see how sort of popular the ladder is. There's some games, but yeah, that's definitely not a crazy amount of games. That's actually the person we just played. So we may need, yeah, one of those to end for our game to be coming up. Okay. I think I just want to lead Iron Treads again, though Mimikyu could be a problem. Not Mimikyu, Alomomola could be a problem. It shouldn't get toxic though, so Gastrodon should be a pretty reasonable check to it. Zoroark should be faster than my Iron Treads as well, so I do have to keep that in mind. I think I'm just going to go for knockoff though, even though they could potentially be a Zoroark with Flamethrower. I do not think they were a Zoroark. Life Orb. Interesting. Honestly, it seems to be suggesting that Iron Head is pretty fine here. Just while I get a sense of what my opponent's going for. So unless they go for Focus Blast and Connected. Okay, are they modest? No, that's still speed boosting. Okay, interesting. Kind of want to go Decidueye on this. I imagine Decidueye should be able to pick up from this range. Alright, I did already knock it. That's true. It looks like Triple Arrows has some decent chance to. And, you know. And now I just look like a good player. Yeah, I'm just definitely going for a knock here. I imagine that they might be Helmet based on the fact that they brought it in like that. Yeah, Helmet. Okay, no more Helmet for you. And they were not Scald either. Okay, interesting, interesting, interesting. I want to go Gastrodon, but I know it has Giga Drain, so that doesn't make that much sense. I just don't have a particularly good Pokemon into Thundurus. I think I go Cleavor. Oh, they went Flip Turn. I did not know that Pokemon learned Flip Turn now. That is really, really bad for me. Thundurus, when I'm not at 100, is definitely scarier than Thundurus was when I was at 100. Yeah, if they have Thunderbolt, that is likely a KO. That's really bad. That's really, really bad. Because I can't even Terra around that. I think I may still need to go for Stoneaxe here. Okay, they went for Volt Switch. That is definitely an improvement for me. I don't know what's coming in. Okay, so yeah, it was actually Zoroark at lead, because it didn't show Mold Breaker. Well, I want a U-turn here. I think I'm probably coming in on a knockoff, so... It could be a play rough, though. I could go Iron Treads. Does it seem like Iron Treads? Like, I've hit it with a resisted move, and it did good damage. I am Sharpness, right? Yeah, okay. Yeah, it seems like Iron Treads is fine. Point for Encore. What the hell? Oh, I didn't click knockoff, I clicked Stoneaxe. I don't know how I messed that one up. Okay, cool. And I got some leftovers there, because they went for that weird Encore play. I should be out of that range of Grass Knot now as well, which is nice. I kind of suspect a Scald to be coming out here. I think I want to go Gastrodon though and just start getting spikes up. Okay, that's cool. That's right, I'm the special attack boosting one. I could Surf, but I really do kind of want to spike up though. I think I Surf. This should probably heal like to full anyway. But I have a sense now. Okay, so 59%. So it does not take a lot for me to be able to beat Thundurus. I could Terra Dragon here. I could Terra Dragon here. I did save my Terra on like last game. I kind of expect them to Volt Switch. I could go to Decidueye, that doesn't really make sense. I'm just going to Terra Dragon because it prevents the Thundurus from coming in again. I don't know what my opponent's last moves are, so Focus Blast isn't going to do a lot of damage. I'm very specially defensive. I think I just Surf here. I think Surfing here is fine. Yeah, okay. Volt Switch isn't particularly shocking here as a play from my opponent. And honestly, Alomomola isn't going to love coming in on Surf, and nothing else on their team wants to. Yeah, so goodbye. Goodbye, Iron Treads. Oh, it didn't die. It's going to Rapid Spin. I need to go Mimikyu. Do I want to go Mimikyu? I think I do have to go Mimikyu. I think I need to preserve my my hazards. Just get the sneak off. That's interesting. Normally I wouldn't expect a Pokemon that is weak to my stab to come in as it resists to my Pokemon. It looks like Shadow Sneak's a 2 KO here. Okay, so they have a Terra and they went for Wisp. Okay, that's cool. Obviously they have a Terra, but they went for Terra there. It's more what I mean. Okay, interesting. I think I go to Jugulus here. And I start just throwing off Dark Pulses. Because I think that looks like a fairly physically defensive. Okay, well, that crit is obviously not very polite to my opponent. I could throw off a Hurricane. I think I need to U-turn. I don't know how I beat this Pokemon. I think okay, I didn't hit the Hurricane. I think I need to just actually hit a Hurricane and then go for a U-turn. I don't actually know what I'm trying to follow up this with. Cleavor, I guess? Cool. High crit rate. And now I can actually just up-pulse. Gosh, this Pokemon is dying. Does it even have access to Roost? No. What a weird Pokemon Iron Jugulus is. It really is just losing so much out from Hydreigon. But yeah, I'm glad to know that my team building fundamentals have been okay. Also, this Pokemon dies to rocks now because it takes 24. Rocks and spikes, I mean. I imagine their last move is Shadow Ball, though theoretically it could be Terra Blast. I feel like they have to sack Skeledirge, right? Because... Or they could go Alomomola and then sack Skeledirge. Like, the Skeledirge is not coming back alive because I made that play with risking my Mimikyu there. And it did wind up getting burned for it. But I got information about the Skeledirge as well. Skeledirge is insane. Like, the fact that I needed that excess of crit to be putting in this sort of risk place is just absolutely ridiculous. Considering how strong the Pokemon that I'm using are. But maybe I should have sacked Iron Treads or Decidueye for a knockoff. It's only one that regretted not having a grass move because they're fire type. They are using their chest timer, which is probably a good idea in this situation from their end. But I think this will maybe the last game of the video, unless they forfeit here, because there's still a decent bit of this game left, and time is a ticking. But yeah, if they lose to their timer here, if they just left, that is something that some singles players will do, is that they will just leave instead of forfeiting, and then just let their timer run out, which is not very polite. But I did also excess crit them. But it is a high crit rate move, so yeah, sometimes that happens. That's why you run high crit rate moves, right? But yeah, decent fundamentals, right? You need to be able to switch into stuff, and you need to be able to punish your opponent for switching. Now, Skeledirge seems very, very good. I would be interested, I think, as an addendum to this, because it does look like my opponent is just writing out their timer, to look at the UU viability rankings. So that is, I think, some of the tiering experts. So those are often players who have qualified through tournament participation or through ladder competition participation to put in that input, and it does seem like they were just leaving. I feel like they could have done... No, they couldn't. Yeah. But yeah, to get that. And either way, I think I had to go Iron Jugulus and try and get a flinch, if not. And then like try and do the same thing with the Decidueye. Which isn't great. So, UU viability rankings. And we want to put in SS because that means... no, we don't want to put in SS because that's the last generation. We want to put in SV because that means it will come up with the right one. Let's hope this is the current one. Okay, most of these Pokemon are... So Gastrodon here, Iron Jugulus pretty high. This doesn't have any of the new DLC Pokemon, right? Yeah, so I need this for Teal Mask. So maybe it's the post-home viability rankings have the Teal Mask Pokemon integrated. Apparently Iron Treads is very, very good, which to be fair, it did seem quite good, but at least Thundurus is here. This doesn't look like it will have the Teal Mask Pokemon, but at least it will have... Oh, yeah, sorry. The reason why I have the Teal Mask Pokemon, yes, they're all still on OU, and they don't drop down until when the tiering update, which finishes at some time today, and then gets updated generally, probably sometime on Tuesday. So they're all in OU, and they haven't come down to lower tiers yet, because they need to do... like a investigation of them. Yeah, Iron Treads did seem really good in these games, so definitely understand that tiering position. That Skeledirge seemed intractable. Crazy the Tauntees here, we didn't run into any of them. We ran into that Thund, who was pretty scary. The Legion and the Zapdos were pretty scary. Gastrodon was definitely pretty effective. I'll be interested to see. Yeah, so like Hydreigon's on this tier list, and I don't think it was in the other one, which meant it was probably still in OU. So yeah, Chestnut pretty high up. Breloom also relatively high, both in that like low A, high B range. So definitely felt alright using Decidueye, who is a similar Pokemon to both of them. And then, what was the other Pokemon I had that was in UU? So Iron Jugular's there. Pretty reasonable. And you know what? I did think it was pretty reasonable. What was the other Pokemon I had that was in UU? Gastrodon, Iron Treads, and Cleavor. Did we miss Cleavor? And by we, I just mean me? No, it doesn't seem that we did miss Cleavor. Oh no, here it is. Yeah, sorry, did just miss it. Okay, so in B+. So, all my like proper Pokemon were in that sort of area. Iron Jugular's here in B. And then the other Pokemon I used were Decidueye and Mimikyu. Mimikyu here in C+. I think probably for the similar reason to what I did. It switches in a Rapid Spin, it punishes their thing. It's funny because Excadrill, the other ground steel type Pokemon, has the ability Mold Breaker, which means it ignores Mimikyu's disguise. So it was funny to actually be able to switch in on it and threaten it. And then the other Pokemon was Decidueye Hisway, who I imagine is... Oh, here it is. There you go. In C, just because it is probably outranked in its ability to take advantage of what seemed like a pretty good defensive type, because even with the Scarf set, I was pretty willing to switch it in on a lot of opposing Pokemon and take those opportunities. Certainly pretty decent. And Grass seems like a pretty reasonable type as well. Though using Scrappy meant that Triple Arrows covered the Ghost types, like, because we did run into a few of them. And Knockoff is a pretty good move as well. I don't know which of these moves I would drop. The Terra Ground seemed fine on Iron Treads. I imagine there are better ones, but I identified that I thought the Steel weaknesses were going to be more of a concern, and in practice they did seem to be more of a concern. The Terra Ground on Jugulis probably doesn't make as much sense. You may want a Terra that resists water or fire. Terra Dragon wound up being fine. It meant that I maintained that electric resist as well, while also getting that grass resistance, which was the main thing I was looking for. So maybe a Terra grass would have been fine, but Dragon allowed it to still function as that fire type check that I wanted it to. And yeah, Cleavor was cool. Stone X is still strong. Still scared of missing, but getting rocks is nice. Getting spikes is good. Spikes is a really cool improvement for Gastrodon, even if it is replacing Toxic, which I think is a much better move. But I probably would have just dropped Earth Power for Toxic. Mimikyu, definitely understand why it is where it is in the tier list. It did not feel amazing, but it does have that really strong niche from Disguise and its type, where you can always switch it into one move at least once, and it will always be able to do something, even if that something isn't necessarily the most impactful thing in the format. So yeah, I'm glad to see. I was worried I was just going to get completely swept using a team, but I had some decent Pokemon, and I was able to use them effectively, and I still had the understanding of a good spikes and like rocks sort of offense and what Pokemon fit well enough into them. Like I considered using Slazzle, because I briefly had thought about this team before. Considered using Slazzle, considered using maybe like a Choice Band or Choice Scarf Tauros, or maybe a Choice Scarf Rotom. And none of them wound up really stinging to me, just because I felt like that Mimikyu was consistent enough. And Tauros would have been okay. I don't think Scarf Rotom would have been great. We see the electric immunities pretty stacked high on a lot of them, as well as the Zoroark Kisway as ghost immunity. But yeah, all in all, thank you everyone for watching. It was a really fun suggestion from Slushy to take this opportunity, originally in OU, but I think UU was a much better power level to try this at, and I'm glad to see that I still have at least a bit of my my singles heritage, at least to get 2 wins on the ladder. Thank you all for watching, goodbye.